Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to give you the essential, actionable knowledge from the sources you share with us. Today, we're tackling something really fundamental, the classic 8-step personal selling process. Now, we got some great source material on this, but you look at it and you can immediately tell some parts are, well, a bit dated.
Yeah, especially the technology references. It's almost like reading about the World Wide Web as this brand new thing.
Exactly. Feels like opening a time capsule sometimes.
It does, but it's actually fantastic for our purpose. It helps us sort of strip away the temporary stuff. Our goal here is to really dig into the core structure of these 8 steps, figure out the timeless principles behind making sales and keeping customers happy.
And then connect those principles to today's world, right? With relationship marketing and everything being digital.
Precisely. We need to focus on what's really shifted since, say, the early 2000s when some of this was written, and what's fundamentally stayed the same about selling.
Makes sense. And these steps, they're not just theoretical. The sources point out that salespeople typically spend around 70% of their actual working time on these activities.
Yeah, the rest is often paperwork, travel, waiting around, the less glamorous side.
So the big question is whether modern tech shrinks that 70% or just changes how that time is spent.
That's what we need to figure out.
Okay, so the 8 steps we're covering are prospecting, pre-approach, approach, need assessment, presentation, meeting objections, gaining commitment, and follow-up. All right, let's unpack this, starting right at the beginning. Prospecting.
Prospecting. Yeah, it's the lifeblood, isn't it? Always finding new potential customers. But maybe more importantly, focusing your energy on the excellent prospects.
What makes them excellent in this context?
It's people who recognize they have a need your product can fill, and critically, they're ready and able to actually make a purchase, not just kicking tires.
Got it. And the traditional view breaks this down, right, into identifying leads first. Just getting names.
Generating names. And then the second part is qualifying those leads, figuring out who's actually likely to buy.
The sources highlight some, let's say, classic lead sources.
Sure.
Existing customers are huge, providing almost 2/3 of leads, apparently.
Which makes total sense. Happy customers are your best advocates.
Then you've got internal sources, like inquiries from advertising, trade shows, the usual suspects, and even published directories, like Yellow Pages.
Oh, the Yellow Pages, yeah. And networking, of course. Civic groups, professional organizations. That's always been there.
But then, like you said, you hit the tech references, and it really shows its age. They talk about the impact of technology, using examples like GoLeads.com, BigBook.com.
Questex.com. Yeah, names most people listening probably haven't heard in, 20 years?
Probably. And they highlight Ford getting 500,000 online leads back in 2000, like it was this massive, almost unbelievable number.
Which, it probably was a big deal then, but it seems almost quaint now, doesn't it?
Totally quaint. Those specific sites are basically museum pieces.
They really are. But here's the thing. The principle behind those early sites, using tech to generate, manage, and customize lead lists. That's not just relevant today, it's absolutely central. It's just exploded in scale and sophistication.
So the core idea stuck, even if the tools changed dramatically.
Exactly. The shift wasn't really from, say, paper directories to specific websites. It was from those early, clunky websites to today's integrated CRM systems. Think Salesforce, HubSpot, things often powered by AI.
Right, systems that can almost pre-qualify leads based on vast amounts of data.
Yes, they automate so much of that initial sorting and even customize outreach suggestions. The tech took that old principle of tailoring your approach and just put it on steroids, basically. Speed, efficiency. It's a different game.
Okay, I get the efficiency argument, but let me push back a bit.
Yeah.
If the CRM is doing a lot of that initial qualification, finding people with the need, the budget, the willingness to engage,
Yeah.
those classic 3 conditions.
Need, ability, and receptiveness, yeah.
Right. If the tech handles that, does it change what makes a good salesperson? Are we looking for data analysts now, or still relationship builders?
That's a really sharp question. And it actually leads us perfectly into the next step, the pre-approach. The planning phase.
Yeah.
Historically, the salesperson had to be a real investigator, digging through maybe physical company files, using databases like LexisNexis. It was hard work just getting basic background info.
Right. Finding out about the company size, who the decision makers are, maybe their background.
Exactly. That research, that digging, was a major time-consuming part of the job. And doing it well made you stand out.
So how does that change now when, like you said, a lot of that basic info might be scraped and handed to you by the CRM?
Well, the principle still holds. You need to do your homework. Deep research still makes you stand out. But maybe the focus shifts. If the tech gives you the basic facts quickly company size, recent news, you need to use that, save time to find the nuance.
Ah, okay. So it's not less research, maybe just different research.
Could be. Maybe it's digging into the key executive's LinkedIn profile, understanding their connections, reading their posts, or finding out about a recent strategic shift the company made that isn't in the standard press release. It's about going deeper than the readily available data.
That makes sense. So faster access to basic info should lead to deeper insights for the planning stage. And the sources emphasize that planning is crucial because, especially in complex sales, you're probably not closing on the first call.
Not usually, no. The stat often cited is it takes an average of 4 calls to close a significant B2B deal.
So the goal of any single interaction, any single call, can't just be make the sale.
Absolutely not. The goal has to be more specific, more incremental. It's about getting a commitment to the next logical step that moves the process forward.
Like what? Setting up a demo.
Could be. Or getting agreement to meet with other stakeholders, maybe the finance team or the tech lead, or even just getting them to agree to review a detailed proposal based on criteria you've discussed. It's about forward motion.
That sounds like what they call adaptive selling.
That's exactly it. You're constantly gathering info, assessing the situation, and adapting your objective for the next interaction.
Okay, so we've prospected, we've done our pre-approach planning, now we actually interact. Step 3 is the approach. The sources seem to treat this pretty briefly.
Yeah, the initial approach is really about first impressions. Firm handshake, well, maybe less so post-pandemic, but definitely professionalism, good eye contact, dressing appropriately, being punctual. It's about establishing credibility quickly so you can earn the right to move on.
Move on to the really critical part, which seems to be step 4, need assessment.
Nailed it. Need assessment is arguably the most crucial step in the entire sequence. This is where you really uncover, clarify, and get a deep understanding of the buyer's situation, their problems, their goals. What are they trying to achieve or fix?
If you mess this part up,
the rest doesn't matter much. Your presentation won't resonate. Your attempts to close will fall flat. You have to understand the need first. And the key tool here is asking effective questions.
and there's actual science on this, right?
Yeah.
Neil Rackham's research, looking at thousands of sales calls.
Yeah, 35,000 sales calls. Massive study. He identified 5 types of questions that are particularly important in successful sales interactions.
Okay, let's break those down. What's the first type?
They start with situational questions. These are about gathering basic facts, understanding the current context, how much inventory do you currently carry, or what system are you using now, stuff like that.
Okay, basic scene setting.
Right. But the key finding was that top salespeople don't spend too much time here. They move on fairly quickly.
Where do they move?
To problem discovery questions. These are designed to uncover difficulties, dissatisfactions, or challenges the prospect is facing. Which part of your current process is the most challenging? Or are you satisfied with your current supplier's delivery times?
So probing for pain points.
Exactly. Once you've identified a potential problem, the next step is crucial. Problem impact questions.
Making the problem feel real.
Yes. These explore the consequences and ripple effects of the problem. What effect does that downtime have on your production schedule? Or how does that inconsistency impact your customer satisfaction scores? You want the prospect to articulate the negative consequences themselves.
Okay, so situation, problem discovery, problem impact. What's next?
Solution value questions. Now you pivot towards the positive. These questions help the buyer see the value or usefulness of finding a solution. How much could you save if you reduce that waste by 10%? Or what would it mean for your team if you could automate that reporting process?
So you're connecting the solution to a tangible benefit, often financial.
Precisely. You're helping them quantify the upside. And finally, you use confirmatory questions.
What do those do?
They basically check understanding and transition you towards presenting your solution. So if I'm hearing you right, you're looking for a system that can improve consistency and reduce waste. Is that correct?
Gotcha. It confirms the need you've uncovered and sets the stage for the pitch.
Exactly. And the big insight from Rackham was that the most successful reps used fewer situational questions, probably because their pre-approach research covered that, and significantly more problem discovery, problem impact, and solution value questions.
Makes sense. They get straight to the heart of the matter and build value.
Right. Which leads smoothly into step 5, the presentation. This is where you actually talk about your product or service, usually using that FAB framework.
This features, advantages, benefits.
Yep. Feature is what the product is or has. Advantage is what that feature does. Benefit is what that advantage means for that specific customer, tying back to the needs you just assessed.
Like the forklift example in the source. Feature, 1-month free trial. Advantage, lets you ensure it meets your operational needs. Benefit, saves you money and time by avoiding the wrong purchase.
Perfect example. And the benefit part needs to be tailored based on those need assessment questions you asked.
Now, how does technology play into the presentation itself? The sources mention reps using notebook computers and multimedia back in the early 2000s.
Right, that was considered pretty cutting edge then. Graphics, sound, video. They even warned about the danger of the glitziest multimedia presentation replacing the personal connection.
Which is still a relevant concern, I guess.
It is, but the update here is really about scale and accessibility. Back then, web-based presentations were just starting to become increasingly common, mentioning tools like Go to My PC.
Ancient history again.
Pretty much. Today, remote presentations using shared screens, Zoom, Teams, whatever, are completely standard. It just confirms that earlier trend. Showing what the product can do, often live, is way more effective than just describing it.
Absolutely. Okay, so you deliver this great tailored presentation, but then you hit step 6. Meeting objections. People are going to push back sometimes.
And they should. Objections aren't necessarily bad news. In fact, the sources rightly point out that objections often indicate interest and engagement. Silence can be worse.
Good point. So how do you handle them effectively?
The core techniques are timeless, really. First, active listening. Really hears them out, don't interrupt. Then clarify the objection to make sure you understand it fully. Show respect for their concern, don't dismiss it. And then respond logically, connecting back to value.
Sounds simple, but probably hard in the moment. What about those really tricky objections, like procrastination, let me think about it, or maybe next quarter type?
Oh, yes. Those are particularly challenging today because decision cycles have gotten longer. The data we saw is striking. 44% of businesses need 6 to 12 months to commit, and another 20% take even longer.
Wow. Over a year sometimes.
Yeah. So just being told to be a patient and trusted advisor, as some older advice might suggest, isn't really a concrete strategy for dealing with a 12-month delay.
So what is the strategy then? You can't just wait by the phone for a year.
No, you definitely can't. The modern approach here involves maintaining momentum through micro-commitments and demonstrating ongoing value. You need to keep circling back, but not just to ask, have you decided yet?
Right, that would get old fast.
Instead, you revisit the need assessment. Last time we spoke, that efficiency issue was costing you X. Has anything changed? Let's look at how a small pilot program could impact just that one area in the next 3 months. You keep the conversation focused on solving their problems and delivering small, measurable wins or insights along the way.
So you're continuously reinforcing the value proposition during that long consideration phase.
Exactly. You're staying relevant and helpful, not just being a persistent salesperson.
That makes a lot more sense. And if you've managed that long cycle well, then step 7, gaining commitment, should feel more natural, Race.
It should. In a complex sale managed this way, gaining commitment isn't some high-pressure closing tactic. It's often just the logical next step you've already agreed upon implicitly. It might be asking them to sign the contract you've refined together or confirming the implementation plan.
It's not like using one of those old school assumptive closes or something.
Hopefully not. If you have to rely on tricks at the end, you likely didn't do a good enough job in the earlier steps, especially need assessment and handling objections properly.
Okay, so commitment gained, but we're not done. Step 8, follow-up. This seems crucial for the modern relationship marketing idea.
Absolutely critical. This is where you shift from a one-time transaction mindset to building a long-term partnership. It's fundamental to consultative selling.
And the sources have this great contrast, this case study about Omnico, that really highlights the shift in thinking here.
Yeah, it's brilliant. You've got Buddy Towers, the old school sales manager, been doing it 35 years. He swears by the buddy-buddy relationship, building loyalty on the golf course, schmoozing.
The classic stereotype almost.
Right, but then you have Laura Kilburn, presented as a successful modern rep, and she pushes back hard. She basically says customers don't rebuy because you're buddies. They rebuy because your product and service genuinely improve their bottom line.
She calls the golf stuff stupid games with the customer. Pretty blunt.
Very blunt. But she's making a crucial point for modern selling. Effective follow-up isn't just sending a Christmas card. It's about demonstrating continued verifiable value. Did the solution deliver the promised savings? Are there new challenges you can help them with?
Now, the relationship is built on performance and results, not just personal liking.
That seems to be the core message. Trust is built through consistent delivery. Think about that Steinway piano example mentioned. The top salesperson, Erica Feitner, built incredible loyalty and referrals.
Ow.
Not by being everyone's best friend, but by providing extraordinary value. She famously refused to sell someone the wrong piano, even if it meant losing a sale short term. And her follow-up was intense years of tuning reminders, recital invites, advice, all value added long after the initial commission was earned.
That's impressive. So follow-up is almost like restarting the cycle, continuously assessing needs even with existing customers.
That's a great way to put it. You're constantly revisiting need assessment, ensuring satisfaction, identifying new opportunities. That effective follow-up is your best form of prospecting because it leads to loyalty and referrals. It feeds right back into the beginning of the chain.
Okay, so what does this all mean when we put it together?
Well, it means that the 8-step framework, that sequence, is still a really useful way to think about the sales process. It covers the essential functions, but the lines between those steps have become incredibly blurred, especially with technology and the focus on relationship marketing.
It's not strictly linear anymore.
Not at all. You're prospecting through follow-up. You're constantly doing need assessment. Even after the initial sale, you're adapting your presentation and approach based on real-time data and interactions. It's much more dynamic, more like a continuous cycle or a web than a straight chain. Adaptive selling isn't just a technique, it's the norm.
The chain has become a circle.
A constantly evolving circle, yeah. And that actually leads to a final kind of provocative thought that emerges from the source material itself.
Oh.
The sources mention that in really close integrated partnerships, think deep supplier relationships. Sometimes the traditional salesperson role gets replaced.
Replaced by who?
By an operational person, maybe an engineer or a logistics expert from the supplier company who actually works full-time or nearly full-time inside the customer's business. They used Bose Corporation as an example where a supplier might embed an employee.
Wow, so the salesperson is literally out of the picture in those cases.
In those very advanced partnerships, yes. Which raises a big question. If the ultimate goal of modern selling is this total partnership focused purely on delivering ongoing measurable value, does the traditional salesperson, especially one focused on the close, eventually become, well, obsolete?
Replaced by these embedded consultants or value managers.
Potentially. Replaced by specialists whose entire job is essentially continuous follow-up and need assessment, step 8 becoming the whole job. It makes you wonder about the future evolution of the sales role itself.
That is definitely something to chew on. The consultant as the ultimate salesperson, maybe without ever calling themselves that. Fascinating. Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive. A lot to think about regarding how timeless sales principles adapt to our very non-timeless technology. Thanks for joining us.